All right, we're recording in three, two, and one.
So they made this show about 4 or 5 times. They finally got it right, where a couple of agents are picking up weird artifacts that affect people in bad ways. This is the final iteration, and I think it's the best. Also, it's connected to Eureka.
Awesome. Welcome to episode 172 of Nerdery Murdery.
Big 172. I'm Zig with your nerdery.
And I'm Jeffrey with your Murdery. Welcome to another week of the highs and lows, the ups and downs, the good and the bad, and the nerd and the murd. So, as you know, I made a trip up to Fort Worth this week.
Yes.
Sorry we couldn't connect and everything, but it ended up being a an interesting trip to say the least.
What happened?
So, first thing we came in last Friday the whatever date that was, the 13th. We came in on Friday the 13th, or no, the 6th.
Mhm.
Um, and we went to go stay with some friends up north,
Mhm.
and it was late by the time we got in and got settled and everything. So we decided to um, go eat dinner at the clubhouse that you've been at before.
Yeah.
And
Where we
before we
filmed a live episode.
Yes. And before we left, the food had started, the quality had started to go downhill.
Oh, that's a shame
Um,
because they had some good
pretty,
stuff.
yeah, it was going down pretty bad. So there were four of us.
Hmm.
The couple we were with ordered two burgers, well done.
Yeah.
Chelsea ordered a Reuben,
Hmm.
and I ordered a meatball sub with onion rings.
Sounds like a plan.
The two burgers
Hmm.
were charred on the outside and raw on the inside, not rare, but raw. Chelsea's Reuben had two little thin slices of corned beef
Uh-huh.
or pastrami,
Yeah.
a little tiny dollop of
Russian dressing.
sauerkraut, and a little tiny dollop of Russian dressing. My meatball sub, if I tell you I had a meatball sub, tell me the average size you think this thing is going to be.
Okay, so meatball sub should be 6 inches long with, depending on how big the meatballs are, between 3 and 4 meatballs in it.
Sure. Full
With a
meat.
whole bunch of sauce. I mean, it's messy. You got to have napkins.
When you say meatball, full meatball.
Yeah,
Okay.
not little baby meatballs.
This
Although I
thing,
have had a sandwich where there were baby meatballs and it
yes.
was good, but there were like 50 of them.
This thing was maybe 4 inches long, maybe five. It
Hmm.
wasn't big. Had a single meatball that was cut in half, a little tiny dollop of marinara, and
Hmm.
some cheese. And the onion rings were burnt. So we, we sent it all back. We're like,
Hmm.
no, no, this is nuts. Well, mine was the first one to come back. And
Hmm.
when they brought it, they had added another half meatball to it.
Okay.
No onion rings back on the plate, just the
Okay.
little sandwich.
Hmm.
And we'd had it. We were done. We're like, nope, nope, sorry, take it all. We're not interested. We're going somewhere else to eat. That was awful. We ended up actually getting ordered from RG Burger in Denton, which is great.
Yes, RG Burger
Um,
in Denton is great.
yes, had them instead. So that was Friday night. Saturday, we went and played golf with Chelsea's coworker and played all day, and
Hmm.
then had to go to a party Saturday night that some friends were throwing because we were in town. And during that party, I said I've been having shoulder problems.
Hmm.
I've got calcification in my left shoulder. It started hurting something fierce, really, really bad, to the point I told Chelsea, I gotta go. I can't take this. I need to go take some pain meds. I need to go lay down. Tried to lay down. It got so bad. I got up and I told Chelsea, take me to urgent care.
Oh, wow.
They ask you on a pain scale of 1 to 10, what is your pain? And mine was about 15.
Hmm.
So I was there. They doped me up beyond belief until I could feel no pain no more.
Nice.
Got home about 2 a.m. Then Sunday, went and watched the Cowboys game, and our fantasy football commissioner brought my last place trophy, which by the
So
way
you
I've
did get the trophy.
broken.
What?
I've got to glue the panniers back to the top of it. It broke off.
Yeah, the last place trophy has a giant phallus at the top of it.
Yeah, it does. It's disgusting. It's horrifying. Um, I may have to put a picture of that on our website.
Yes.
So I got that.
I was
Uh,
actually you know what's really funny? I was actually at your draft.
yeah, I heard you were. Um, so then Monday was a day kind of going shopping and different stuff to get stuff that we can't get down here,
Hmm.
and I have to give a shout out, and if they want to sponsor us, please do. Duluth Trading Company is awesome.
Oh
I
yeah.
love them. Um,
Great pants, great underwear.
Yes, if you are a guy and you are not wearing Armachillo underwear, go out and get you some. They're a little
Hmm.
expensive,
Yeah.
generally about 26 bucks a pair,
Yeah,
but they
but
were
they
on
last 10 years.
yeah, and they were on sale for 18, so I got
Yeah.
some more of those.
Yeah, they last
Um,
10 years.
I got a nice shirt that was on clearance was $16, and there was another design there that I really liked, but they didn't have it in my size. And they said, "Well, let's look online and let's see if we can get it shipped to you." We looked online, and not only was it online, but then I was able to get it for $12 online.
Oh my
So
God.
awesome! I love Duluth. So want to sponsor? Go ahead.
Hmm.
Then we had to come home early because Thor got very sick.
Hmm.
He was pooping blood, like murderous amounts of blood. It was
Gross.
bad. It was really bad. And it was a bad bout of pancreatitis because somebody left a plate of cooked sausage on the counter, and Thor will counter surf.
Yeah, well,
And he ate a
he
whole
big
plate
old
of
boy
sausage.
too.
And he ate a whole plate of sausage. So we ended up having to come home early. Then Thursday, we played golf again. I played 18. Friday, my arm was hurting again. Chelsea went out playing by herself, and so I just went grocery shopping.
Hmm.
She went into a hazard after a ball, tripped, and severely sprained her ankle. So she wound up in urgent care on Friday and is now in a boot for the next
Oh
few
my
weeks.
God. Dude, maybe you should think about a different sport.
Uh,
Both of you.
oh, it was just funny. It was funny. So yeah, so
And
that
I'm
was
sorry I
my
missed
week.
you.
Oh,
Everybody
that's
in
all
the
right.
house was,
Yeah.
that particular week, everybody in the house was pooping.
Yeah,
Except
that's that.
me.
Well, that's good. At least you weren't, but yeah, so that was my vacation.
Yay. I've been on vacation this week. I have actually spent a lot of time writing notes for Nerdery Murdery just so I don't have to worry about it later on. So
Awesome. Always good to
and
get
doing a
those
bunch
out
of
the way.
playlists. Yeah.
Cool.
Matter of fact, I added so many playlists I can't even see them at this point. I have to let them add. So we've got a lot of playlists out there.
Well, and speaking of playlists, not really playlists, but music.
Mhm.
I've been dabbling in AI stuff, and
Yes.
I have created several pieces of music about our show using AI. And so make sure when you get to the end of this episode, don't dump out right at the end. Do listen to the music at the end because we are going to be adding in the music that I created because there's some really, we think cool stuff. I think it's
Yes.
some pretty cool stuff, and it's amazing what AI can do because I just told the AI what the name of the show was, what the subject matter was, a little bit about the show. I told it the genre of music I wanted to hear, which we have several different types of genres, and then told it to create, and it spit that out.
Nice. Yeah, and we've
Um,
got God, you've made like a dozen of those things.
yeah, somewhere between 8 and 10, I think. So there's going to be different ones on the end of every show. So give them a listen. Let us know what you think. I hope y'all enjoy those. I think there are some really cool ones in there, including this week, which I think we're going to put on the end of this week is probably my favorite one.
Sweet.
So awesome. That's all I got. You got anything else you want to dive
Mm,
into it?
I want to talk about Warehouse 13.
All right, step on into the nerdy side of the house.
Thanks, sir. Warehouse 13 is an American science fiction television series that originally ran from July 7, 2009 to May 19th, 2014 on the Sci-Fi Network. It was executively produced by Jack Kennedy and David Simpkins for Universal Cable Productions. Described as part The X-Files, part Raiders of the Lost Ark, and part Moonlighting, the show's blend of science fiction, comedy, and drama is said to have borrowed much from the American Canadian horror television series Friday the 13th, the series,
I don't
which ran from
see
87 to 1990.
I don't see moonlighting in this.
With Pete and Micah,
I know what you're talking about. I mean that's basically saying that any pseudo, almost kind of, sort of romance harkens back to moonlighting, and I just don't see that one. David Addison and Maddie Hayes were very unique
yes,
in their non relationship to a relationship. So I agree with everything except the moonlighting piece.
yeah, yeah, because they were basically just friends through
Yeah,
all of it up until like the last couple of episodes of the last season.
right.
There were even several points. It's like, oh yeah, 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 we would never sleep together. That's how come we're just friends. Um, the series follows U.S. Secret Service agents Micah Baring, played by Joanne Kelly, and Pete Latimer, played by Eddie McClintock, when they're assigned to the Secret Warehouse 13 for supernatural artifacts. It is located in a barren landscape in South Dakota, and they initially regard the assignment as punishment. As they go about their assignments to retrieve mission artifacts and investigate reports of new ones, they come to understand the importance of what they're doing. In episode 4 of the first season, they meet Claudia Donovan, um, played by Allison Scagliotti, who is searching for her missing brother. In season 2, she joins the team as their technology expert. In episode 1 of season 3, Steve Jinks, played by Aaron Ashmore, an agent from the Bureau of ATF,
Hmm.
comes aboard. Warehouse 1 was built between 336 and 323 BC on the orders of Alexander the Great as a place to keep special artifacts attained by war. After Alexander died, the warehouse was moved to Egypt, establishing the practice of locating the warehouse in the most powerful empire of the day, under the reasoning that it was best defended there. Egypt's Ptolemaic rulers appointed a group of people known as the regents to oversee the warehouse and act as its first agents and collectors of artifacts. Warehouse 2 lasted until the Roman conquest of Egypt. Other warehouses throughout history include Warehouse 3 in the Western Roman Empire, Warehouse 4 in the Hunnic Empire until the death of Attila the Hun, Warehouse 5 in the Byzantine Empire, Warehouse 6 in Cambodia under the Khmer Empire, Warehouse 7 in the Mongol Empire under Genghis Khan, Warehouse 8 in Germany during the Holy Roman Empire, Warehouse 9 in the Ottoman capital of Constantinople until the death of Suleiman the Magnificent.
You mean Istanbul?
Yes, Istanbul. Warehouse 10 was in the Mughal Empire in India. Warehouse 11 was in the Russian Empire under the Romanovs. Warehouse 12 was in London. And after 1914, it was moved to America. And basically, Albert Einstein, Nikolai Tesla, Thomas Edison, MC Escher worked on the warehouse to get it where it could expand and contract because it's basically built into the side of the mountain. Having said all that, there was this idea about these weird artifacts that started, as I said, with Friday the 13th, the series. Um, there was another series called the Special Agent, no, Special Agent 2, Special Assignment 2 was also the
Hmm.
same sort of thing. They were collecting artifacts and people. Um, Sci-Fi ran a mini series called The Room, which was this room that they were doing this scientific experiment, and everything inside the room disappeared and then came back in a big pile, and every single one of the items has a special quantum entangled aspect of it. So it's all about looking at the room. Like there's an alarm clock that does something. There's a bus ticket that when you when you touch it, So the back end of it's wrapped in tape. When you touch the bus ticket, it sends you out into the middle of nowhere in Kansas. Um, and and this guy would have this bus ticket with, of course, with the duct tape wrapped around it. And anytime somebody pissed him off, he just slapped him on the head, and they'd go. They'd end up in the middle of Kansas. Doesn't matter where he was because he was in New York. He sent people to Kansas all the time. It's like, oh my God, what an asshole. But anyway, this idea kept floating around. And the producers of Eureka decided that they wanted to take a turn at it. And this series and Eureka cross over,
Hmm.
as well as the series Alphas that came along later about
Right.
special people. They're all connected in the same universe. Now, um, the network originally ordered a 2-hour pilot episode written by Farscape creator Rodney S. O'Banion and Battlestar Galactica co-executive producer Jane Espenson and D. Brent Mote. Jace Alexander eventually directed a revised version written by Espenson. Ep, Espenson.
There
Oh,
you go.
yeah, well, that's so hard to say. Moat and The Blade, the series executive producer David Simpkins. Sci-Fi ordered an additional 9 episodes on September 19th, 2008. Um, it was also concurrent about the time that Sci-Fi changed their name to SYFY.
Siffy.
Executive producer Jack Kennedy took over showrunning duties beginning with episode 2 and continued to run the series until its conclusion. The series was filmed in and around Toronto, Ontario, where that big production facility is, um, which has since moved to Vancouver because the weather's better. Vancouver weather is just like it is in Seattle. Yeah, it's a little rainy, but they don't get covered in snow.
Hmm. Hmm.
Maybe a couple of days a year, like we do in Texas. We will get snow a couple of days out of the year if we get it. Same with Vancouver. They don't get it all the time because of that Pacific current. Um, and funny thing, that big production company in well, again, originally it was in Toronto, was originally going to be in North Texas.
Hmm.
Yeah, Ann Richards, when she was governor, signed a big old deal with these production companies and gave them all these tax breaks. And as soon as she was out of office, they took the tax breaks away. Well, Toronto's like, we'll give it to you. That's why it moved there. Then one of the production companies split off and went to Atlanta, and the other one moved to, again, Vancouver. So yeah, all the stuff that was being made in Atlanta and in Vancouver and Toronto could have been made in Las Colinas. But the studio's still there, and they're basically run by Funimation. It's almost completely all voice recording, which is awesome for us. Which is why we always get so many voice actors for conventions in North Texas because they all live here. Because this is where they work. Um, but yeah, so they got this idea to do this. So again, they did The Room. They wanted to do The Room as a series, but Peter Krause got cast in something else. Actually,
Probably thinking about the time this started, probably Sports Night. It was either Sports Night or 6 Feet Under.
no, this was after 6 Feet Under,
Then,
2009.
oh
He
yeah,
was in
then
a
it
series
wouldn't be
about,
Sports Night either.
yeah. Um, there was one where he was working with like dirty lawyers and dirty finance people. I want to say that came out like right after that. And then he did another
Maybe.
series right after that. I can't remember either name of those series. He was great in both of them.
Well,
Peter
now
Krause
he's
is great in everything he's in.
yeah, because now he's in 911.
Yeah. Peter Krause is great in everything he was
Yeah, he
in. But
is.
yeah, they were like, yeah, we'll still do the show. Besides, they wanted to bring more humor to it. That miniseries was exceedingly serious, even though you had the bus ticket thing,
Mhm.
which was exceedingly funny. Besides, they like Joanne Kelly and Eddie McClintock, especially as the lead. Plus, they got to bring in Saul Rubinek, who's great in everything he's ever been in. Um, He's the bad guy that keeps showing up in Leverage, the first series. Um, but yeah, the idea is this warehouse just moved from empire to empire, so the people in the empire could keep it safe. Um, and each one of the characters changes a little bit. Micah ends up becoming a regent toward the end. Claudia ends up becoming the keeper of the warehouse, which basically gives her an unnaturally long life. Um, Mrs. Frederick is a great um, is a great character. Mrs. Frederick basically is connected to the warehouse,
Hmm.
and she is exactly the same age in 2009 as she was when she hired Artie in 1962. Or no, 72. Um, she's exactly the same age as she was when she hired Artie's predecessor in 1955. It's like, how old is she? And then you come to find out she is connected directly to the warehouse. And when the warehouse goes, so will she. And the warehouse almost moved. And that's when it decided that it liked Claudia as much as it did Mrs. Frederick. So basically, Claudia took over for Mrs. Frederick as the keeper. And they're like, this has happened before. It's not uncommon. And the last episode, you get a flash forward of Claudia like 100 years from now. It's like, yeah, they keep saying the warehouse is going to move. I've heard that before. Um, and she gets to talk to everybody about it. I love the character of Claudia. I love the character of Jinx, who comes along, played by Aaron Ashmore. He is a skeptic. And I think in cases of these shows, you really need that skepticism to keep it realistic. Because everybody can't be all in on all the craziness. You need a you need a Scully for every Mulder. Um, and so yeah, I'm sorry, I'm rambling on.
No,
I
it's
just
fine. This was a really good show. I never watched it from start to finish. I've seen episodes here and there.
mhm.
Um, and now that
I
we're
just did like
talking,
when I was putting these notes together. I watched the whole
well,
damn series.
well, and that's what I was saying. Now that we're talking about it, I really liked the show when the episodes I did watch. I think that's one I need to go back and watch from the beginning and watch all the way through. I'm glad I had watched multiple episodes of Warehouse 13 before the crossover with Eureka.
Mhm.
So I at least knew the character of Claudia and what she was going to bring to the show. And I did see the Warehouse 13 episode where Fargo comes to
But
the
yeah,
warehouse. So I've seen those.
Fargo doing Fargo things.
Yes.
I tried to keep up with alphas after this. I didn't care for alphas. I didn't think it was as strong of a series.
Hmm.
Um, again, not that I disliked it. It wasn't necessarily my cup of tea. It's not where I didn't think it was to the quality writing wise. Production wise, it was actually a little better, but it wasn't to the quality writing wise of Warehouse 13. The Santa Claus episodes are some of my favorite.
And I never it just suddenly hit me. I don't know that I've ever thought about this before, or if it's new for the first time. I don't know. I'm getting old. Um, it's funny how much the show The Librarians mimics Warehouse 13.
Oh yeah, librarians came along and did the same thing again.
Yeah, it's
Again,
it's
the
different with the librarians
yeah.
because they're not government agents. They're all these regular people who are recruited into the warehouse, and the warehouse is this very mystical
Mhm,
thing. So a little bit different, but it's a lot of the same premise. They're going and they're finding artifacts and
mhm,
getting dangerous artifacts out of the hands of bad people
mhm. Or in a lot of cases, good people
who become
who
bad
are
because of the artifact.
yeah, who are just trying to or are trying to do something good,
Hmm.
and you know, the artifact corrupts them.
Right, right.
And the warehouse agents use the artifacts all the time.
Oh yeah.
Um, when they need them. Artie, when he goes out on patrol, has a little medical bag, and he's got these weird little artifacts. It's like, holy crap, what is that? Oh, this makes a door wherever we need to go. Like, you're not supposed to be using them like that. He's like, there's certain artifacts that we can use on the job and certain artifacts we can't. These are the ones we can use. They're in this bag. But it's crazy.
The actor that
Um,
plays Artie, he's
Saul
so
Rubinek.
funny. He's such a good character actor.
Oh, I love him.
Um, he he's in an episode of Boston Legal. He's being sued by one of his employees that's played by Sherry O'Terry, and she is claiming in the lawsuit that she was fired for her political views,
Hmm.
because she liked one candidate over the other, but she couldn't quantify why she liked it and whatnot. And during the trial, um, they're really hammering on the actor that plays Artie. You said it, and I can't remember it again.
Saul Rubinek.
Saul Rubinek. They ask him, did you fire her because of her political views? And he said, no, I fired her because she's dumb. So if you can imagine him saying that line, it was
Oh
it
my
was
God.
very funny.
I like her because she's
Yes.
yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, I love Saul Rubinek. And he was
Yeah.
great as Artie.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
the very gruff boss, the very,
yeah,
generally serious boss.
yeah.
He was really really good. He's always on the edge.
Hmm. Yep. And hates it when Claudia tries to upgrade everything, but she's
Yes.
like, good God. He's like, this was invented by Nikola Tesla. Yes, it's brilliant. It's 100 years old.
Right.
We can do some more stuff with it. Oh my God. No, but this this show is fun. It's I don't want to say um fantastical because it is fantastical, but that's not really the word I want to use.
But you're right. I mean, it is fantastical.
And it's, they basically become a family because they're the only ones in most cases that even know about this.
Right.
I'm making sure that I think I've got some full episodes in the list. I'm looking at our playlist.
And and
There's
and
some.
those of you who listen to our episode over Eureka, if you've gone and you've watched Eureka on our recommendation,
Mhm,
watch Warehouse 13,
mhm.
because it is really really good. And like I said, I never watched all of it, but now I'm really kind of compelled. I think I'm going to go back and watch all of it now.
Yeah, it's only 4 seasons, and the
Yeah,
last season's only 6 episodes, so
yeah.
it's not it's not a big haul. Like I said, I just rewatched it. I'm looking to see we don't have full episodes in our YouTube playlist, but we do have a bunch of gag reels, a bunch of the people talking about the making of the show, um, how to make a Farnsworth out of your cell phone, um, and different things like that. It's talking about the sets. A lot of great interviews with Saul Rubinek too, plus the title themes, which are great. Um, but yeah, there's a couple of little. Also, like again, one of my favorite shows was Star Trek Deep Space Nine. You have the main cast, the title cast, and then you have guest stars or special characters, featured characters that may be in every episode or almost every episode for a whole season. And then they just show up every once in a while.
Hmm.
They'll bring characters in. That's what I loved about Deep Space Nine. It wasn't the main cast was large. If you consider all of the rest of the cast that they used on a regular basis, it's gigantic. Warehouse 13 was like that. The warehouse agent group, at one point, there was like 6 or 7 people in it, even though there were only two official agents.
Right. Who was uh, who was the villain in the last? Was it the last season or second? H.G. Wells.
Yeah.
H.G. Wells, who is a woman
Mhm. Yeah.
in this show.
Yeah. Herbert was actually her brother.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, Helena or H.G. Wells, she ends up being basically she's a villain and then she's helping them. And she's
Right.
kind of villainous, but it turns out she's actually not being a villain. She's working for the warehouse. She's just working from the other end of the problem.
Right.
And she ends up basically becoming one of the team.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Matter of fact, one of the things is an interview with her about how she felt about making Warehouse. She loved it. She was like, I got so happy when they would say, "Okay, we're bringing HG back in for an episode." She's like, "Yay!" Um, she's great. Plus she and um the actress who plays Micah, Joanna Kelly, were really really tight. So they got along really well, which helped because their characters were interconnected. But yeah, it's a beautiful series. They help Santa Claus out every year. Santa Claus is a person. Basically, he's a human artifact.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's just oh God, I can't say any more about it other than go out there, check it out. Look at our YouTube playlist, see some of the things. You can see some of the scenes and some of the gags. The cast is wonderful. The writing is pretty good. I wouldn't say it's 100% top notch, but that's not what they were shooting for. They were shooting for episodic, kind of crazy television. Like a lot of Eddie McClintock's lines. Um, Pete Latimer. It was it was really kind of throwaway and childlike, you know. That was the character. That's who they needed, because he brought levity to that, some fairly serious artifacts that are basically murdering people. You know, you know.
And I had to pull it up along with Eureka because Eureka's the same. Both Eureka and Warehouse 13 are on Amazon Prime.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Like I said, I just watched Warehouse 13 not too long ago, all the way through when I was putting these notes together. And I was like, I'll give them a little bit of the plot, but I think I can explain it better. These two Service agents are trying to protect this official, and then something weird happens, and this one guy shows up, Artie, but he's not after the dude. He's after an object, and they end up being relegated to South Dakota. And when they show up, that dude is there, explains to them, this is the most prestigious job that the Secret Service has.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't know about it.
You know,
And he's right, man. They're saving the world.
and going back to you were talking about they can use certain artifacts on the job. That is often what they have to do in these episodes is they're
Mhm.
going after an artifact and Artie sends them with an artifact
Yeah.
to take out the
Use this.
artifact.
Yeah. Use this when you get to it. If you don't use this, he's gonna kill you.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that going on. But again, Artie knows exactly what you can and can't use. I mean, they're special. They have this purple goo that they coat the artifacts with, or also have little static bags with the stuff that lines them, um, that diminish its effects. But there's sometimes when they're walking around the artifact or the warehouse and bump into a, they'll just bump into a shelf and an artifact falls on them and messes them up.
Right.
All you got to do is touch it. Um, it's not that uncommon, and most of the artifacts look like everyday objects. Yes, some are fantastic, like these beautiful old statues. Sometimes it's just a hairbrush,
Mm-hmm.
you know, an old typewriter, um, a man race camera, which was one of my favorite episodes because they talked about man ray. Nobody ever talks about man ray.
Well, and if I recall correctly, when they're just everyday given objects, let's take a hairbrush for example. It's not
Mhm.
just a hairbrush; it's Catherine the Great's hairbrush. It's
Exactly. Yeah.
it's somebody's famous
Yeah.
item.
Yes. Yeah. It, and the premise is objects are imbued as artifacts every single day. As a matter of fact, they go to a cafe and watch one happen.
Hmm.
I can't even remember what it was, but they're like, that just became an artifact because of an emotional connection, or it belonged to a beloved person who used it every day and it was part of their whole shtick. And because enough people believed that it was special, it became special.
Am I right on this, or am I confusing with the librarians? But isn't the warehouse or the library, which one of these sits on a ley line or a
That's the
nexus point?
librarians.
It's the librarians. Okay.
It's the librarians. They're all about ley lines.
Okay. Sorry, mixing up
No, it's
shows.
okay. I
Like I
just
said,
watched that series.
they're
I
they're
just watched
very
that series too.
they're very comparable, so it's easy to
Yeah.
mix them up
Well,
sometimes.
again, and the same with the Friday the 13th thing.
Yes.
Um, I think you guys should get out and watch all of this stuff because it's really, really cool and
Yeah,
fun.
Friday the 13th was that a Fox show? Is that
It was a
Fox?
Canadian produced show.
I know,
It
but I
probably
think
aired on Fox. It was
yeah.
syndicated.
Yeah. But that was really good. I enjoyed the Friday the 13th because there was a couple like that. There was Friday the 13th, and there was something else that was very similar.
Hmm.
Um,
Um, Freddy's Nightmares.
maybe,
Yeah.
maybe.
There were a bunch of those shows produced between I think 87 to 1990. They were like that. They were just amazing little shows that science fiction shows that were producing up in Canada for next to no money.
Hmm.
Um, with really good production values though.
Right.
Trying to think of the other one. Oh, War of the Worlds was another one. That was a really good one too.
I don't remember that one.
The War of the Worlds series,
Hmm.
about the same time, 87 to 1990. Oh, it was great. It was really, really awesome.
And then, and then actually, if you want to fast forward several years, another show that I think probably took some cues from all these shows, Grimm.
Oh yeah, Grimm definitely took the cues from, and that was produced here. That was an NBC show.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's the same sort of thing. So if you like those, you really should get out and check out Warehouse 13. Again, it's on Amazon Prime. You can watch the whole damn series.
Yeah.
It's cute, it's funny, it's fun, it's well acted, it's well written. Um,
Well, and where I would give Warehouse 13 over shows like Friday the 13th and Grimm and those other ones, Warehouse 13 is very much like Eureka in that it didn't always take itself seriously. There
oh
was a
God,
lot
no.
of comedy interspersed with the
Hmm.
dramatic thing that was happening. It was very
Yeah.
lighthearted and it was fun. These were really, really good series for that you didn't have to take too seriously, that you could just enjoy and
Yes.
have fun with the characters and the episodes and everything like that. That's why I appreciate both of these shows,
Yeah.
Eureka and Warehouse 13.
For exactly the same reason.
Yes,
Yes. Oh no, we're gonna destroy the world. Yeah, yeah, but I can still tell a joke. I mean, it's not gonna kill it.
right.
Just because you make light of a situation does not necessarily mean you take a situation lightly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about it for Warehouse 13, other than get out and check it out. I tried to give you as bare bones of information as I could with the actors and the production. And I just basically wanted to talk about it because I just watched it. I love this series. I'll probably watch it again here in a month or two, just so I can, have it on in the background and giggle. But
Well,
it is.
it says something for shows like that you can watch over and over and over
Mhm.
again. Um, the, honestly, that you could watch while you're doing other things, chores,
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
maybe working on a podcast episode,
Mhm.
that you can have in the background because you know what's going on. You don't have to pay super close attention to it, and it's just fun to have on.
Oh yeah.
So cool, awesome, appreciate that.
Sure.
I'm gonna go back and watch all of Warehouse 13 now. Now
Oh
that
yeah,
you've
you
said
should
it,
check it out.
because like I said,
I,
I've
you know,
seen a
the
bunch of episodes. I just haven't seen it from start to finish.
The weakest episode, in my opinion, is the first one. Everything else is way superior to that. It's not bad, but it's probably their weakest effort.
Hmm.
It's like they didn't quite know what they were doing. And I think having that second showrunner come in, because he came in on the second episode on, feels it. That sense of fun is way more prominent when that dude took over. And again, it's by the second episode, but you really need to see the first episode to set the whole damn thing up.
Right. Awesome. Well, cool. I appreciate that.
Sure.
With that, I will take over on the murdery side of the house.
Murder.
For today, I got my information off Mysterious Michigan, MLive News Michigan, Wikipedia, and Medium, and this is the story of the Robison family murders.
The Robison Family Murders.
And I'm going to apologize now as I go through this. I'm going to trip over myself, I'm sure, at some point and say Robinson, but it is Robison.
Robison.
It's just when I see the name, it's just like Robinson. I mean Robison. So
Robison.
just Robison. Robison
Your,
is it.
your brain just fills the N in.
Yes. So even if I say Robinson at some point, it's Robison. So the Robison family murders, which were also known as the Good Heart murders, is one of the most notorious unsolved mass murders in Michigan's history. The tragic events unfolded in the surroundings of Goodhart, which was a secluded resort area, on June 25th, 1968.
Oh, that's why they're called the Good Heart Murders.
Mhm.
Okay.
The case still remains a very haunting mystery. There are numerous theories and investigations that have failed to bring closure to the victim's family and the community at large. The Robison family was your typical American family who lived in Michigan. They were known for their strong community ties and active involvement in local affairs. Richard Robison Sr. Was a successful businessman who owned an advertising agency, R.C. Robison and Associates. I almost said Robinson there. That were based in the Detroit area. The firm strategized advertisement campaigns for businesses with the Detroit region, and he also worked as a commercial artist executive and publisher from Impresario magazine, which focused on cultural issues such as the arts, theater, and music, and was also based within his one-story Southfield office. They were a wealthy family. They owned a private Learjet and lived in the affluent Detroit suburb of Lathrop Village.
Okay.
Richard Robison Sr. was described as hardworking and a dedicated father who prioritized his family and their well-being. He had met his fiancée, Shirley Fulton, in the mid-1940s while both attended college, and they wed in 1947. Shirley Robison was a homemaker who was deeply involved in her children's lives in the local church community. They had 4 children. Richard Robison Jr., who at the time was 19, he was their eldest son. He was a college student who had just begun to explore his future. He was known for his ambition and was actively involved in sports and community activities. Gary Robison, who was 16, he was a typical teenager with interest in music and sports. He was known for his friendly demeanor and was well liked by his peers. Randall Robinson, who was 12, Randall was described as bright and curious, often engaged in outdoor activities and hobbies typical of a young boy's his age. And Susan Robison, the youngest child at 7, excuse me, Susan was a lively, cheerful girl who brought joy to her whole family. She was known for her playful spirit and love for animals. So Goodhart is a very small but picturesque resort community, and it's located
I
along
was just looking it up on the map. It is right there on Lake
Michigan.
Michigan.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's in
Yeah,
Emmett.
right there next to the Upper Peninsula.
Yeah, it's in Emmett County.
Yeah. I was just looking at I was scrolling through the map going, okay, I need to know where this is. Yeah, but it doesn't look like it's terribly far from Detroit. Okay. For you and me, it probably wouldn't be a far drive. I think we'd be fine with it. Um, Looks like it's about 100 miles, roughly.
Well, it's known for its natural beauty.
Hmm.
The area attracts families who are seeking a peaceful retreat from the urban life in Detroit and other big cities. Its community was characterized by its close-knit atmosphere where residents often knew each other well, and there were gatherings that were common during the summer months. The Robison family had a cottage in Goodhart where they would spend their summers. They would enjoy the outdoors, swimming, and participating in local events. The area at the time was considered safe and idyllic, which is why these brutal murders were all the more shocking to residents because something like this didn't happen. So, in the summer of 1968, the Robisons embarked on their annual vacation to the resort community within the small town of Goodhart. They'd planned to spend 3 weeks of their vacation at Somerset, which was the seasonal log and stone holiday cottage they had purchased in the 1950s for $15,000.
Oh, I bet it's more than that now.
Um, well, the cottage isn't, and you'll know why.
Okay.
It was a 5-room cottage, and it was situated on the end of a long private driveway within a heavily wooded area, in which one section runs alongside a 100-foot bluff close to the Lake Michigan shoreline. The family had been visiting the property every summer since 1957, and this vacation began on Sunday, June 16th, with the family traveling in 2 cars to their destination, as they were accompanied by several traveling companions who were staying in their own rented holiday homes. These individuals included friends of the Robison boys, some business acquaintances, and personal friends of Richard Sr. and Shirley.
Okay, so they like were caravanning up there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this is an American thing that doesn't really happen anymore. It's a shame
Correct.
too.
Right. Right. Um, the uh,
Robison?
no, the Ricardos and the Lucy and Desi, Lucy and Dadgummit, I've lost them all. I love Lucy. The four
Yes.
of them often took these kind of trips.
Yes. Fred, Ethel, Lucy, and Ricky.
The Mertzes, the
Yeah, the
Ricardos and the
Mertzes.
Mertzes. There we go. Yeah. So I mean, very soon in the 1950s, this was very common
Yeah.
for groups of families to go take
Yeah. They'd go in together
vacations.
on a cabin or a group of cabins on an area of
Hmm.
land, and that's just what they did.
Right. Among those to know about the vacation and the location of the
The
Robisons,
house I grew up in was like that before my parents bought it.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that. Um, the others who knew about the vacation and the location of the Robisons' secluded home were several senior employees of Impresario magazine. On June 23rd, one of their traveling companions, 18-year-old Norman James Bliss, who was the son of the caretaker of the Blisswood Resort, which is in Goodhart,
Yeah.
and was a close friend of Richard Jr.'s. He was killed in a motorcycle accident while returning to Goodhart from nearby Cross Village,
Oh no.
reportedly while intoxicated. An autopsy of his death revealed the cause to be cerebral hemorrhage. The accident occurred sometime after 1:30 a.m., and the Robison family did not learn of the accident until that evening. Once they heard of the news, Richard Sr. paid a personal visit to Bliss's parents at their Goodhart holiday home, offering to pay for the teenager's grave marker and flowers or a wreath. He also explained the family would be unable to attend the funeral as they were due to fly from Pellston Regional Airport to Kentucky, then Florida, with plans to purchase real estate and would not be back to their cottage for a couple of weeks. He added the earliest date they would likely return would be July 15th. In the days leading up to the tragedy, Richard Robison had been dealing with financial issues related to his advertising business. He
Mhm.
discovered discrepancies in his bank account, which led him to confront his employee, Joseph Raymond Scalaro III. Scalaro had been working for Robison and was responsible for handling some of the financial matters of the company. The confrontation over the missing funds occurred just hours before the murders, raising suspicions about Scalaro's potential involvement. On June 25th, 1968, the Robison family had planned a typical day of relaxation at the cottage. They were known to enjoy outdoor activities, and it was common for them to spend their time swimming and playing games together. However, this would be the day that would end in tragedy. The final confirmed sighting of the Robisons occurred at approximately 4:30 p.m. on June 25th, when two individuals who were tasked to trim trees within the grounds of Somerset left the property. So the attack itself began with the assailant firing 5 shots through a rear window of the cottage, striking Richard Robison Sr. as he sat in a chair. After entering the cottage through an unlocked door, the perpetrator killed the remaining family members, and the method of killing varied. Richard Sr. and Susan were both shot and bludgeoned with a claw hammer that was found at the scene.
Holy
The,
shit.
the other members, Shirley, Richard Jr., Gary, and Randall, were shot multiple times with 2 firearms, a 22 caliber AR-7 semi-automatic rifle and a 25 caliber Beretta semi-automatic pistol. The final two family members killed were likely Richard Jr. and Gary, who were shot as they attempted to retrieve a rifle stored in a closet. The crime scene showed few signs of struggle, suggesting the attack was sudden and premeditated. Investigators would determine Richard Sr. had been shot in the chest with a 22 caliber firearm and once in the head with the 25 caliber pistol. He also received a skull fracture from the claw hammer, and his body
It
lay
had to
in the.
have been close for that 25.
Mhm.
Because, 25s don't have a lot of power behind them.
Right.
Um,
Well, but
in
it
a
was
lot
a,
of cases.
but it was a 22 AR-7. It was a semi-automatic
Okay.
rifle, so it's going to
Yeah.
have some power behind it. It's not like it's a 22 pistol.
Yeah. No, I meant the 25.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
25,
the
yes.
25, they don't have much power because it's basically all the grains at a 22, but a bigger bullet, so it doesn't push as hard.
Right.
It's for up close.
Richard Sr.'s body lay in the hallway to the property beneath the body of his youngest son, Randall.
Hmm.
Susan lay alongside her father and brother. She had received a single 25 caliber gunshot to the face, in addition to a skull fracture again from the claw hammer. Shirley Robison's body lay on her stomach in the living room. She had received a 25 caliber gunshot wound to the head, and a red and black plaid blanket had been placed over her body after death. Richard Jr. lay midway between the hallway and northwest bedroom of the property. And Gary was discovered lying parallel to the east wall of the northwest bedroom. He had been shot in the back with the 22 and twice in the head with the 25 caliber firearm. There were playing cards scattered on a table that indicated that two or more family members had been playing a game of solitaire at the time of the shootings. So the bodies of the Robison family remained undiscovered for nearly a month.
Oof.
Well, that's due to the conversation that Richard Sr. had had with the caretaker, Chauncey Bliss, pertaining to their travel plans to Kentucky and then to Florida to buy the property.
Oh, that's right, because they were going to be gone.
Right, said they wouldn't be back till July 15th. So the nobody, including the Robison's travel companion or the caretakers, became suspicious when the family hadn't been seen for several weeks,
Because they
even
knew they
though
were leaving.
right. And even though their Ford, well, I think what may have been a little suspicious though is their Ford LTD station wagon and their rented Chrysler Newport remained parked close to the cottage. If they were going to the airport, you'd figure one of those cars would probably be gone.
Yeah, they'd have taken at least one of them. Yeah.
Um, it was
But again, if those cottages aren't that close together, they may
right.
not have seen those cars.
No, and theirs was very secluded, and I don't know how much the caretaker would have been going onto the property, knowing that they
Yeah.
weren't going to be back to the 15th. And also, the Robisons had largely, but not exclusively, kept to themselves during their vacations at the resort. They knew people, they talked with people. For the most part,
Hmm.
they stayed with family and they did family things.
Yeah. The time for them to bond. I get it.
So on July 22nd, 1968, Chauncey Bliss discovered the gruesome scene when a neighbor complained about a foul odor coming from the cottage. So it was close enough for an odor to come across. He entered the home and he was met with a horrific sight of the bodies of all six family members sprawled throughout the cottage, and where they were in various states of decomposition.
Oh, yeah. The animals probably got in. They're in the middle of the woods.
Well, it also didn't help the decomp that whoever the perpetrator was had also turned on the heat.
Oh,
So that advanced the decomp, and it made it difficult for investigators to determine the exact time of death, but they estimated the murders occurred approximately June 25th. So you talked about the cottage being worth more today. The
hmm.
bodies were so badly decomposed that the cottage was ultimately demolished after the investigation because the blood and the stench could not be adequately cleaned.
Oh, it was so bad they had to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just looked at some pictures of Blisswood. It's beautiful up there, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
if it smells like dead animals,
Yeah.
yeah, no, pass.
So the Michigan State Police and Emmett County Sheriff's Office began an extensive investigation into the murders. Initial inquirings were very challenging due to the lack of physical evidence and no witnesses. They questioned the sole family whose seasonal home had been close to the Robison cottage, and they revealed they had not been present in their cabin on June 24th or the 25th. However, another couple informed investigators that sometime in the late afternoon of June 25th, they had heard two men and a woman shouting, followed by the sound of gunfire, which all came from the direction of Somerset. But they had chose not to investigate because they thought that it was maybe the Robisons shooting gulls on the beach.
Mhm. Oh, which may not have been that uncommon.
Correct. Investigators quickly determined that the murders were premeditated and most likely committed by an individual or individuals known to one or more members of the family. There was an expensive ring that belonged to Shirley that was missing, but no money or other items of value have been taken from the victims, thus discounting robbery as a motive. Furthermore, Shirley Roberson was nude from the waist down, but no family member had been sexually assaulted. So her body had most likely been posed in this manner to deceive investigators into believing a sexual motive existed behind the murders. All individuals whom the Robisons were known to have encountered in the 9 days they had spent at Goodhart were eliminated from the inquiry, and theories pertaining to potential family links to organized crime circles were also discounted. However, investigators quickly focused on Joseph Raymond Scolari III as the prime suspect. So, why? Well, there's financial motive. As we had
Mhm.
talked about, Richard had discovered discrepancies in his business account shortly before the murders, which led him to confront Scalaro about the missing funds. It was later revealed that Scalaro had embezzled approximately $60,000 from Robison's company. On the morning of June 25th, Richard telephoned his personal banker at the National Bank of Detroit, Frank Joydy, to discuss the business pertaining to an expected recent deposit to his account of $200,000, only to be informed that the deposit had never been made and that there were financial irregularities within his business account within the recent weeks, and his current business balance was just $15,000. This infuriated Richard, who telephoned his receptionist demanding to speak to Joseph Scalaro, who was the
Mhm.
only employee of his with direct access to company accounts, to seek an explanation as to the missing funds. Investigators later determined this phone call had been made shortly after 10:30 a.m., and telephone records would later determine that over the following hours, Robison Sr. both called and attempted to call Scalaro on 17 occasions, demanding an explanation. Scalaro had very suspicious behavior as he left the office after a confrontation with Robison on the morning of the murders, but could not account for his whereabouts for over 12 hours. His wife reported that he did not return home until late that evening, which was very unusual for him. Investigators found shell casings at the scene that matched firearms linked to Scalaro. He had previously given Robison a 25 caliber pistol, which was one of the caliber weapons used in the murders. There was also a single bloody footprint at the scene, suggesting that one individual was responsible for the killings. There were a pair of boots owned by Scalaro that were a precise match for the footprint, and the perpetrator attempted to cover the bullet holes and close the curtains before leaving the cottage. The investigation led to several theories regarding the motive and circumstances surrounding the murder. There's the embezzlement cover-up. The prevailing theory is that Scalaro killed Robison, the Robison family, to prevent Richard from discovering the extent of his embezzlement. The confrontation earlier that day likely escalated into violence. I don't know why kill the whole family, though. I mean, granted, you're a murderer, you're a murderer. You're going to kill a person. What's one more or two more or six?
Mhm.
But this one, that theory is a little weird that he did it to prevent Richard from discovering and just decide to kill the whole family instead.
If they'd have just
Um,
killed Richard, they probably would have backed off. Back then they
Maybe,
didn't. If you were good enough to cover your tracks, you could get away with murder in 1968, especially out in the middle of nowhere. It was pretty common.
right. The only
Yeah,
other
but killing a whole family, yeah,
the
they're gonna
only
go after you.
the only other thing could be after the first shots came through,
Somebody saw him.
maybe the family saw him, right?
Yeah.
So maybe. There are organized crime links. There were some that speculated the Robison family may have had connections to organized crime, but investigators
That would
ultimately discounted
that
this theory due to lack of evidence.
yeah, that would explain why they would kill the whole family though.
It would. Another theory suggested that Chauncey Bliss, the caretaker, may have been involved, particularly after the tragic motorcycle accident of his son, Norman James Bliss, just days before the murder. However, police did not consider him a suspect. I think this one is the least likely one.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm so upset that my son died. I'm going to go kill a random family.
Yeah, the whole family.
Yeah, that one. I'm really not sure of. Um, so despite in extensive investigation, the Robison family murders remain officially unsolved. During the course of the investigation, Joseph Scalaro undertook two polygraph tests, both of which he failed. The reliability of those. The results of a third test were judged inconclusive, and experts also noted that Scalaro's answers were indicative of his attempt to deceive the interviewers in his pretest interviews. Investigators presented their 700-page case report to the jurisdictional prosecution on December 17, 1969. This detailed report implicated Joseph Scalaro as the sole perpetrator of the crime, with ample circumstantial evidence attesting to his guilt and concluding he had the means, motive, and opportunity to commit the crime. The following month, Emmett County Prosecutor Donald C. Noggle and Attorney General Frank Kelly ruled that insufficient evidence existed to bring formal charges against Scalaro, referencing the fact that though the spent shell casings recovered from the private firing range matched those used in the murders, the two firearms used in the commission of the murders had never been recovered. The ruling also noted no other
There's a
form.
big ass, deep ass lake right there.
Right. The ruling also noted no other form of physical evidence, such as fingerprints, placed Scalaro at the actual crime scene, but there's the footprint. So I didn't understand
Yeah.
this one.
Well, I mean, and also they couldn't get DNA; they could only get blood type. So,
Well, you don't need DNA to match up footprints. I mean, I don't know how far advanced we are in footprint technology than we are.
it's
I
true.
I watch CSI and I see what they do on CSI. They take when they have a shoe, which obviously they knew Scalaro had this shoe.
Mhm.
They do an impression of the shoe and try to see if they can match it to the impression found at the
Yeah,
scene.
because the bottom of everybody's shoes wears differently.
Correct. It wears differently. You walk differently, so there's going to be different ways that the traction is going to show. So, that one I'm just not sure of. Um, but anyway, as it happened, he was not charged with the murders, although investigators remained convinced of his guilt. Within 4 months of Robison's murder, Scalaro assumed directorship of R.C. Robison and Associates and Impresario magazine, having purchased the firms from the Robison estate. He would then manage both firms from Richard Sr.'s
That's why he killed
office.
them all.
I think so, yeah.
That's why he killed them all, so he could purchase it from the estate.
Um, he would
Kill them
later.
all. You're dealing with a probate judge, not a
That's
member of the
true.
family.
That's
Yeah,
true. I didn't think about that. Yeah, yeah. He would later sell the magazine and also found another firm he named Dimensional Research Incorporated. 4 years after the commission of the murders, a newly elected chief prosecutor in Oakland County, Lewis Brooks Patterson, believing the Robison murders had been committed within his jurisdiction, formally reopened the prosecution. When he reviewed the accrued evidence, Patterson informed the Oakland County Assistant Prosecutor Ronald Koval, quote, "We are going to charge Scalaro with the murder." The decision to reopen the case was widely publicized in Michigan. And upon discovering the reason, Emmett County prosecutors had determined insufficient evidence existed to successfully prosecute Scalaro was a lack of physical evidence to confirm his guilt. Investigators sought to retrieve further evidence sufficient to secure his arrest and prosecution. So Joseph Scalaro was now the prime suspect, but he died by suicide in 1973 at age 34 before any charges could be filed against him. He reportedly committed suicide upon hearing of his likely impending indictment for the murders following the reopening of the case and discovery of further physical evidence attesting to his guilt. His body was discovered slumped in his high-back chair at 3:30 p.m. that afternoon by two men who entered his office looking to collect an outstanding $730 debt. There were two typewritten suicide notes that were found at the scene. One note was attached to the door of his office and addressed to his mother, warning her not to enter the office where his body lay. The other, also addressed to his mother, acknowledged the acts of fraud and forgery he had committed in his life, but ended with a handwritten denial of culpability for the murder of the Robison family. So the note which he left, maintaining his innocence, stated, quote, "Mother, where do I start? I'm a liar, cheat, phony. Any check that any of the people have with your signature isn't any good because I forged your name to it to get them off my back. I owe everybody you can think of. I have made poor investments and in some cases, no investments at all. I love you dearly, but living only causes you more heartache. I just can't help myself. Please understand. Love, Joe." The letter also listed several individuals whom he had defrauded in multiple business schemes. And at the base of the letter, Scalaro had penned a denial of culpability for the Robison murders that read, quote, "P.S. I had nothing to do with the Robisons. I'm a cheat, but not a murderer, Joe." Many investigators and true crime enthusiasts still consider him the prime suspect due to circumstantial evidence against him. Scalaro's suicide resulted in the investigation of the Robison murders becoming largely inactive. He remains the prime suspect of the murders, with past and present investigators convinced that had he not committed suicide, he would have been tried and convicted of 6 counts of first-degree murder. So the Robison family murders not only devastated the immediate family and friends, but left a profound impact on the entire Goodhart community. As I said, it was a very safe and idyllic neighborhood or community.
Mm-hmm.
Residents were left grappling with fear and uncertainty as the murders raised questions about the safety in their once peaceful town. The case did garner significant media attention, leading to widespread speculation and numerous theories about the identity of the killer. The Roberson family were laid to rest in Oakland County, Michigan on July 26, 1968. Their interments within Arcadia Park Cemetery followed a service attended by several hundred mourners, which saw the caskets of Richard Sr. and Shirley flanked by those of their 4 children. In the years that followed, the Robison family murders became a chilling reminder of the potential of violence, even in the most serene environments. And the unresolved nature of the case has kept it alive in public memory, with ongoing discussions about the evidence, the possibility of justice for the victims, because, they would like to have an answer. And
Oh yeah.
I think maybe with DNA typing today, you might be able to pull something more from it. I don't know, but to
Yeah,
this day, it
assuming,
remains
anything
unsolved.
survived.
Yeah,
It is Michigan.
right, right.
They'll get 4 foot of snow every year.
That's the story of the Robison family murders. I didn't say Robinson once.
You didn't until just
Mhm.
now.
Yeah,
Good job. Thank you for that. That's fascinating.
I
Um,
thought so too. I thought it was a very interesting case.
yeah.
I think Joseph Scalaro is the culprit. I think he's
Yeah.
definitely the
Well, he
perpetrator
was
of
able
all
to
of it.
buy the company out.
Yeah,
Wait, what I don't get is he's able to defraud this family. He makes this money. He's able to basically run the company, pay himself as the director of it, end up buying the company. It's still a successful company. How come he doesn't have any money? What did he do with it?
who knows? I mean, he could have been an alcoholic. He could have been a gambler. And
Uh-huh.
he
Well,
could
I
have
mean,
been an
it's the
addicted
late
gambler.
60s.
Who
Coke and
knows?
heroin.
Yeah,
We don't talk about it a lot, but they were around.
right,
Yeah, it
right.
could have been all Coke and horse.
Yeah, who knows? But I mean, obviously, he was not good with money, and it sounds like he was spending it basically as soon as he got it.
Yeah.
It was just going out the door constantly. So
Wow.
anyway, thanks for taking that trip with me. I'm glad you found it interesting. I did. I did as well.
Thank you,
So
sir.
I always find these interesting because I'm creepy and weird that way. So
I don't think you're creepy and weird. Weird, yes. Creepy and weird, nah.
I'm a little twisted that I enjoy hearing, watching or reading about this stuff. I mean, this stuff it just fascinates me.
Mhm.
The stories just fascinate me. So anyway, that will take us to the end of another recording week. As always, you can find more information about our show on nerderymerdery.com. That's our hub for everything about us. You'll find links to this episode, pictures from the topics we discussed, and you'll also find the link to our YouTube page, which Zig so often updates.
Yes, in this particular episode, we've got a bunch of behind the scenes footage and some casts talking about it, as well as some gag reels and things like that you get to see, which you don't normally get to see.
Awesome.
Um,
Appreciate your hard work on that.
sure, you're quite welcome.
You'll also find a link to our merchandise page where if you wish to show off your nerdery fandom, please do consider purchasing something for that. That, along with you can find the link to our Patreon, where if you wish to become a patron and help with the costs that are associated with the show, it does cost to keep us on the air. It costs for us to produce it, to upload it, to keep our episodes running, all the various sites that it goes to, and everything like that. So please do consider becoming a patron or purchasing some merchandise to help us along with that. We do appreciate each and every one of you.
Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. Last but not least, please don't forget to leave a 5-star review wherever you can. It really helps us and helps others find our content that may be looking for the topics that we discuss. So, with that,
I have been Zig with your nerdery.
and I'm Jeffrey with the Murdering.
Cue the music.
Cue the new music.
New music.